I guess the first question I should answer today is what in the hell is going on with my hair? If I had an answer, I'd let you know. I posted on my Instagram asking for questions. I figure it's been a little while since I've done a Q&A and I like doing Q&As. I think they're fun and I got some questions, so I'm going to answer them here. I haven't actually looked at them yet, so I'm just going to go down the list and answer them. I have not thought, this is all off the cuff, I promise you. I haven't thought about any of this ahead of time because that's just how I live my life. First is actually a handful of questions by Jens90, Jens_90. She says, what got you started in lettering? What's your favorite style of planner to use? If you could be any vegetable, what would you be? Eggplant emoji. So first of all, what got me started in lettering? I always was interested in handwriting. I was a child of the 80s and the 90s. I did shit like dot my I's with hearts and all that other crap. But I didn't really get invested into the idea of different styles of lettering until I got plunked into the sign room at Trader Joe's 11 years ago, almost 12 years ago now. I was kind of forced to learn how to do it. I didn't want to be on the cash register and I had good enough handwriting, so they're like, let's give this a shot, and it worked out okay, I suppose. My favorite style of planner to use is probably any style of planner that is a weekly layout with like columns, like vertical columns, and a monthly overview. Like a good monthly spread with room to write. I am currently using an Erin Condren hourly neutral, which is very much the same. In the past, the Inkwell Press, the classic layout also worked really well for me. Just that style. The boxes from the old Erin Condren I used to use, the vertical, worked out pretty well for me. There's a freedom in one column that really makes me happy. If I could be any vegetable, what would I be? I'd love to say eggplant because I think that that's hilarious, but I probably wouldn't be eggplant. I think I would want to be bok choy, baby bok choy specifically, because it's tender, it's adorable, and it cooks really quickly. And I don't know why that's important to me, but it is. Kayla Plans asks, do I still have the aquarium toilet seat? Yes. My husband does not want to get rid of it. So I'm trying to figure out a way to break it so that we have to replace it because I want that thing out of my bathroom. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, there it is. Came with the house. Skite, S-Kite, asked, do I have any other hobbies? How do I juggle my interests? My biggest hobby, aside from art and planning and lettering, like I kind of group all those together, is reading. And I have gotten better about making time for reading, like reading for pleasure, whether it's historical fiction or biographies or trashy novels or scary novels. I have a whole bunch of interests in different books. And I haven't made a lot of time for them recently, but I've been trying to be better at it. The other hobby that I have is singing. I sing with a small group at my church. I would love to sing more, to join the college chorale or something. I just don't have time for it. And it's like, how do I juggle my interests? Well, I don't. That's kind of the answer for both of these. I'm able to get the singing that I do currently done because we don't meet very often, and so I can fit it into my schedule. I just sort of try and cram them in the nooks and crannies whenever I possibly can. And I know I'm not the only person who does that. Please tell me I'm not the only person who does that. Christine Dickerson, you got Dick in your name. He asked, what is my absolute, hands down, #1 go-to wine? Okay. I know I live in wine country. I do not like red wines. I love white wines, sweeter white wines specifically, not syrupy sweet white wines, but sweeter. My general wine that I go to on the regular, where I'm just going to the grocery store picking up a fucking Magnum, is generally Sutter Home Moscato. I know it has arsenic in it. I know it is not the best quality wine, but damn is it refreshing. Willa Wallaco says, how in the heck do you get a smooth transition in brush lettering from an ending on a high letter like W to a lower starting letter like E? And how do you make words that have a W to R look pretty? Okay, I can't really show that in a video like this, but I will tell you that the easiest way that I have found to connect like a W to an E is when you make the W, have it come straight out, and then just start the E like it was a printing E rather than trying to swoop into it. Kind of like that, if that makes any sense to you. And how do I make words that have a W to an R look pretty still? I take the part of the W and I go even higher up into the R. Like instead of trying to make them level with each other, I just fluff the hell out of that loopy part of the lowercase r. When I tackle brush lettering and Llama's Love lettering in the next few months, you'll kind of get a better idea about it there, but that's sort of the bare bones answer of it, for me at least. I'm not the expert on it though. Tattooed Teacher Plans has a couple of questions. Her first question, it's kind of 2 in 1, but it's, what's your favorite, most sexy letter to letter and favorite pen or other method to letter it with? Bubble letter E. I fucking love bubble letter E. I don't know why, it just makes me so satisfied. Unlike Hamilton, who will never be satisfied. And also brush letter lowercase h. Those are my two favorite letters to letter in general. And when I'm doing bubble letter E, just a Papermate Flare is my favorite because it makes a nice fat line. I like the fatness. And with the brush letter H, like a thicker brush pen like a Tombow or a Koi to do it, because it makes that nice thin upstroke and then the fat ass bottom stroke. That's kind of how I like doing those. But that changes. This is currently, in a month it could be different. Tattoo Teacher Plans also asks, digital lettering like with an iPad Pro, am I into it? No. I hope to be, when I can get around to having the money to buy an iPad Pro. Maybe I will. Currently, I have a Wacom tablet. It's the one where you have it down and you write and you're looking at the computer screen while your hand is writing. And it's worked really well for me for photo retouching and doodling and things like that. But for lettering, I spent a good 10 years, 11 years with my face on the paper, lettering on paper, looking at what I was doing. That retraining myself to letter while I'm looking ahead at a screen while the lettering's happening here. It's just really not like cohesive for me. It really doesn't feel intuitive at all. So I've kind of shied away from it. I've gotten many recommendations from people that I should give the iPad Pro a try, and I've been convinced. I'm just trying to put the money aside. You know, once I'm done paying for my daughter's Catalina trip and all this other shit we gotta pay for, I will get the iPad Pro and I will start messing with it. But currently, no, it's not something that I do because it's like reading books. I don't read digital books either. I only read hard copy books because I like the feel of all the things. The feel of the paper, the smell of the ink, the smears, how your hands get all fucked up. I love that. I love it. Kara XS3 asks, how did you get into planners? Kind of goes back to what I was just saying about how I love the tactile sensation of writing things on paper. I have always been a list maker. I get that innate satisfaction of checking something off when I've done it. I know probably a lot of you out there get that same satisfaction. And so when I would use day planners, when I was in like the little shitty ones when I was in high school, and then I went to college and I had like a day timer or something that I used to try and track my life. Mostly I've gravitated towards the ones that only have a monthly overview because I could just keep track of my appointments and shit. There came a point in about 2014 where I was feeling like I really needed something more than just a monthly calendar. And I was reading I Heart Organizing, which is one of my favorite blogs to read. And she at the time was using an Erin Condren planner. And I was like, fuck yeah, that looks awesome. And I was like, oh, that's $50. How the fuck am I going to spend $50 on a planner? So I was a sweet summer child then. But I got over myself and I bought it, and here we are. Rose Paper Party asks, what's with X's? Why they gotta be like that? I've been asking myself the same question for years. She also wanted to know what my favorite watercolor brush is for lettering. I've got kind of three that I play with. I also like using the Pentel Aquash water brush. That one is one of my favorites, but for standard brushes, I have three that I use. This is a 4/0 Virtuoso little thin liner brush. I got in this huge pack of liner brushes from Amazon. These two I got from Michaels. This one is a number 4 Grumbacher liner brush. It's starting to wear out. I'm going to have to replace it because I've used it so fucking much. And then this one is, it doesn't have the brand on it, but it is a number 6 round brush. And it's just for different sizes. I find that I have the least control with the number 4 liner brush from Grumbacher because the bristles are so long, but they soak up a lot of watercolor so you can get more before having to go and dip back in. This one I have a lot of control with, but it's fat and kind of sloppy. And if I want the most precise lettering, this little tiny liner brush is the one that I go with. Pepper Joe 83 asks, does it have to be planner, lettering, craft related? No, it doesn't, Pepper Joe. How did you meet your husband? Have you always lived in California? And planner related, how did your planner addiction get started? And what is your favorite planner ever? How did my planner addiction get started? And what my favorite planner is? I kind of answered those already, but I will go for the non-planner related questions. How did I meet my husband? Playing World of Warcraft. I was playing in a guild in World of Warcraft. Yes, I was doing that with a group of other people that I worked with, and we worked nights, so we played at night. And my husband was living in LA at the time, and he was working for a recording studio, so he was also up late at night and playing, and he met this group of us and started playing with us and really liked us. So he came up to visit us in Napa to meet the group of us. There was like 7 or 8 of us, and he liked us. He was looking to move out of LA. Instead of moving to the East Coast, he thought, why don't I come up to Napa? Because I know people there already. It's a beautiful place. I get a job and, try it out. And so we came up, and then we started dating soon after that. And the rest is history. Have I always lived in California? Yes, I have lived in California my entire life. I was born in the East Bay area, and then when I was in like 3rd grade, we moved over the Altamont Pass into Tracy, which is on the edge of the San Joaquin Valley. And then I went to college at UC Davis, lived in the Davis area for several years, and then moved to Napa when I transferred when I was working as a manager at Trader Joe's. And I've been in Napa ever since, and I don't imagine leaving anytime in the near future. Mary Fulton wants to know if she can have my hands now, please. Sorry. Colette Carroll asks, do you ever correct your family members' handwriting or just rewrite it for them? No. They probably get so pissed at me. I have helped my son out. He really likes cursive writing, so that was fun. My daughter does not. She's a lefty, and so it's kind of difficult for me to really help her with her handwriting. Her dad and stepmom are both left-handed, and so they can help her out there. But if they ever wanted help, I would be here for them. Jamie Marquez Bratcher asked me, can we ever have you on Planner Girl Chatter? Yes, that's their podcast. If you don't know what it is, it's the Arizona Planner Girls admins, and they have a podcast, and it's really awesome if you like planner shit and podcasts. And I'm supposed to be a guest on there at some point in the near future, and I am making it happen, Jamie, I promise. Stupid Sam Shit, it's an interesting handle there, asked, favorite felt-tipped pen? I fucking love Papermate flares, both the medium size and the ultra fine size. Both of them make me super, super happy. And I also have lately been loving the 03 from Tombo's Mono drawing pens and the 02 from Pigma Microns. Glitter Thistle asks, when your kids were younger, how did you fit in planner or art time? My daughter is almost 3 and I struggle to find time unless she's asleep, but I usually am too. Honestly, I had the same issue. I am in a place right now in my life where I have 2 tweens/teens, they're middle schoolers. So it's pretty easy to get the time that I need in because they're, you know, they have other things to do than hang out with mom. But when my kids were like little guys, it was really difficult to get time to myself unless, like you said, they were sleeping. And that meant some late nights and mornings where I was wiped out. But that I was able to get my fun time in. I don't really have any good tips for how to manage that when your kids are that little, because it can be really difficult because their schedules are all over the place and they really are needy, and it's hard to carve out time for yourself. But if you can, I recommend trying at least once in a while to get a little bit of that time in, to sacrifice a little bit of sleep to it if it's important to you, because it'll help you retain some of that feeling of who you are besides being so-and-so's mom, because that is a terribly scary place to be in where all you identify as is someone's mom and not yourself. So making that little bit of time. Or another thing I did used to do was I would get out their art supplies and let them make art while I made art next to them. I'd make my own stuff with my stuff that they couldn't touch, and they had their own shitty art supplies out for them too. And that's a fun way to do it if she's interested at all in like coloring or painting. Valerie Ackerman 8 asks, what is my favorite paper to use when printing inserts? I get it from Target, and I don't get it from the paper section. They usually have it in the printer section. It's like HP multi-use, I think it's 30-pound or 32-pound paperweight. Like, it's the nicest one you can get at Target. I'm sure you could go to like an office supply store and get better paper, but I usually go to Target every day, so that's just where I tend to get my shit. Sandy LA asked, what are my favorite pens for lettering besides Sharpies? Well, I've mentioned the Papermate Flare a couple of times in this video. Pigma Microns, Pitt Artist pens, any pen you have handy. I like ones that have a cushiony kind of tip to them, because they tend to stand up to my heavy hand. Taylor W plans, ? Says, how do you determine what writing utensil you want to use for what? Honestly, it's about whatever's near to hand. If I'm doing like freelance work, I generally gravitate towards extra fine Sharpies and flares because they're my old reliables. But if I'm doing like stuff in my planner or whatever, I just pick whatever inspires me at the moment. I keep all of my pens out. Like they're in things on my desk, or they're in my Rascog behind me, or they're on my bookshelf in like cups, but I keep all of my pens visible so that I can just turn and grab different ones whenever I want to. And I'm just like, whoa, whatever fancies me at the moment. That's kind of how I roll in most of things in my life. B-Turn12 said, I want to get into brush lettering. What are some good starter brushes or pens? If you got a Target nearby, go in there and buy the pack of these puppies. The Pentel Sign pens. There's a pack of like 12 colors, and they've got the flexible tip. It's a nice, small, manageable tip that's not too floppy. And that's a really helpful kind of starter pen. The Tombow Fude pens, the hard and the soft tips, are both also smaller nibs that are kind of easy to work with, but they're more expensive. You can usually get those at Michael's. They started carrying them there now. Crayola, like big old, like regular, like fat markers work really well to learn the basic feel of brush lettering. Love My Aussie says, how do I brush letter? Like brush lettering for kindergartners. That's where I need to start. Just get started. We'll show up in Llama's Love Lettering coming up in the next few months, so there is that. Sunshine321 says, where do you find all the fonts you use? Do they come naturally now, or do you have to practice before you'll display? Where can we find the alphabets of those fonts? Most of the ones that I use on the regular are ones I've been using for years. I'm trying to start using more, but most of them I learned when I was a sign artist, and I just have continued to use and adapt them over time. All of those, the brush, the bubble lettering, the serif fonts, all the ones I use on the regular come very naturally to me, and I don't practice. I also don't pencil anything in ahead of time for the most part because I'm a free baller, and that's just the way I do things. I do practice, but and there's some, depending on things I'm gonna post or whatever, where I'll have a whole bunch of fuck ups before I post something, but I often don't practice them all the time, where like I'm doing the letters over and over again, because at this point I really don't need to with those ones. When I'm learning something new, I absolutely do practice it all the time. Where can you find the alphabets of those fonts? Well, if I have done worksheets for them, you can either find them at llamaslovelettering.com, which is out of date with the new series. I'm redoing the website, so that's out of date. The newest ones coming from the season 2 of Llama's Love Lettering are all in the Llama's Love Lettering group on Facebook. Or if you can't do Facebook, you can always become a patron, and they get access to all of those a day in advance. That is the end of my questions. This has been a fairly long video today. Thank you for sticking around. If you have any other questions that I can answer, maybe in a future Q&A, or you have other videos you'd like to suggest, then leave them in the comments below. I got some fun things coming up for October, so you might be happy, or you might not be. I don't know. Can't control that. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time.